Today, we are conducting something of a forensic audit of the upcoming Doomsday event. We're not here to talk about casting rumors or, plot leaks. We are here to examine a crime scene. The promotional material has been just riddled with these specific anomalies, glitch artifacts, where the image fractures, and they're always accompanied by highly specific numerical timestamps. We're talking 1.24, 1.17, 1.11, 1.04, and 1.01.
Right. It's a pattern that demands we follow the explicit instruction to look closely. But the question we really need to answer is, what exactly are we looking at? Is this a history book detailing past mistakes? Or is it more like a star chart mapping out a future invasion?
Well, my position is that we're looking at a confession. These numbers aren't random at all. They're an indictment. They align with, mathematical precision to the runtime of Avengers, Endgame. Each timestamp corresponds to a specific moment where the Avengers tampered with the very laws of causality. These glitches are flagging the original sins of the timeline, proof that the coming catastrophe is a direct, self-inflicted wound. It's caused by the hero's own arrogance.
That is a very clean, very linear theory. And, it appeals to our desire for cause and effect logic. But I'd argue it's also a trap. You're looking at the surface text, the MCU history, while missing the massive subtext underneath it all. I believe these timestamps are recursive. They don't just point to Endgame. They point to the X-Men cinematic legacy, and I think more importantly, to specific issue numbers in the comic lore. These glitches aren't error logs. They're warning signs of a total narrative collapse, signaling the arrival of higher cosmic entities, maybe even the Beyonders.
So you think we're dealing with an invasion? I think we're dealing with consequences. Let's break this down. The most prominent glitch, the one in the recent Steve Rogers footage, it occurs exactly at the 1.24 mark.
Which in your forensic model takes us straight back to 2019.
Precisely. If you play Avengers Endgame and you pause it at exactly 1 hour and 24 minutes, you are watching the pivotal scene between the Ancient One and Bruce Banner. This isn't just some random conversation. It's the thesis statement for the entire multiverse saga. She is explicitly warning Banner that the Infinity Stones create the flow of time and that removing them creates doomed alternate realities.
A warning they believed they heeded by returning the stones.
But did they? Really? The glitch is plastered over Steve Rogers. At 1:24, the Ancient One outlines the danger. So who was the man responsible for mitigating that danger? Steve Rogers. And what did he do? He completed the mission, sure, but then he broke protocol. He stayed in the past. He altered his own personal timeline to be with Peggy Carter. The glitch is highlighting the hypocrisy of that moment. The captain put his own desire above the structural integrity of the entire timeline. The 124 timestamp is the prosecution's Exhibit A. The Avengers broke time to get their happy endings, and now the bill is coming due.
Okay, I don't dispute that Steve's choice had consequences, but pinning a multiverse-ending Doomsday event solely on Steve Rogers retiring just feels small. It lacks the cosmic horror that the Doomsday title implies. Let me offer you the counter-evidence for 1.24. If you step away from Endgame and instead look at Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, at exactly 1.24, we are entering the gap junction.
The space between universes.
Exactly. It's the void where the Book of Vishanti is kept. It is a non-space. Now, why does that matter? Because in the comic run, time runs out, which, leads directly into the Secret Wars event. Doctor Doom establishes his base of operations, the Library of Worlds, in a very similar void. He sits outside of time and space to save fragments of dying universes.
So you're connecting a timestamp from a Doctor Strange movie to a comic book location?
I'm connecting the concept of the void. The glitch isn't pointing to Steve Rogers' bad decision, it's pointing to the source of the incursion. It's telling us that the threat is coming from the gap junction. The glitch effect itself represents the walls of reality thinning. And if you align this with the comics, that white space was originally the domain of the Beyonders, these omnipotent aliens who view our entire multiverse as a petri dish. The glitch is a coordinate, not a history lesson. It's pointing to where the invasion begins.
That's an elegant theory, I'll give you that, but it relies on an awful lot of external knowledge. My Endgame theory relies on the text of the films themselves. And the pattern holds up when we move to the next timestamp, 1.17. This one appeared in the Thor and Loki footage.
1.17. Okay, let's hear the original sin theory for this one.
It is arguably the most critical second in the history of the MCU. At 1 hour and 17 minutes into Endgame, we are in the middle of the time heist in 2012 New York. Tony Stark gets slammed by the Hulk, the briefcase slides across the floor, and Loki. He grabs the Tesseract and vanishes.
Right, the moment that birthed the entire Loki series and the whole concept of variance.
It is the moment the sacred timeline was breached. Before that second, before 117, the timeline was stable, at least under the TVA's curation. The Avengers' incompetence in that hallway is the literal cause of this multiversal unraveling. The glitch is just screaming at us, this is where it broke. It's not about cosmic beings judging us, it's about a botched robbery. If Tony holds on to that case, he who remains is still on his throne, and Doomsday never happens.
Functionally, you are correct. I mean, that moment did trigger the mechanics of the saga, but you're ignoring the thematic resonance of the number 17 in the context of Loki's character arc. I want to point you to Loki, Agent of Asgard, issue number 17.
You really think the marketing team is bearing citations to specific comic book issue numbers? I mean, that seems like a bit of a stretch for a general audience.
For a general audience, perhaps. But this campaign is targeting the diehards, the people who dissect every single frame. Issue number 17 of Agent of Asgard is the finale of that entire run. And what happens? The multiverse is dead. It's gone. And Loki transitions into the god of stories.
Which parallels his ending in the Loki Season 2 finale.
Exactly. In that comic, Loki confronts those who sit above in shadow, these entities that feed on the cycle of Ragnarok, and he challenges them by asserting that gods only exist because stories allow them to. The glitch at 1.17 isn't just reminding us that Loki stole a cube, it's foreshadowing the solution. It connects the origin of his journey in Endgame with the destiny of his character in the comics. It suggests that the resolution to Doomsday will require Loki to rewrite the narrative itself. The glitch is the story trying to rewrite itself.
That's a beautiful literary interpretation, I'll grant you that. But it abstracts the danger. Rewriting stories is a meta concept. A timeline collapsing because we broke the seal, that is a physical threat. And if we want to talk about physical threats, we have to talk about the X-Men.
Aha! The 1.11 glitch. I suspect this is where your Endgame theory hits a bit of a speed bump.
A speed bump, maybe, but not a roadblock. At 1 hour and 11 minutes into Endgame, we're in Asgard. Thor is sharing that heartbreaking moment with his mother, Frigga.
A touching scene, certainly. But does it scream multiversal catastrophe to you?
Not overtly, no. But it's a scene about the inevitability of failure and death. Frigga tells him that everyone fails at being who they're supposed to be. In the context of Doomsday, the glitch could be highlighting the theme of acceptance, that maybe the Avengers can't fix what's coming. So it's more of an emotional anchor, not a mechanical one.
That feels like a reach to preserve the pattern. But if you look at 1.11 through the lens of the X-Men, the data is far more compelling. In X-Men, Days of Future Past, at exactly 1.11, Magneto is giving his monologue to Mystique. He talks about receiving a message from the future. He speaks about the Sentinels, machines designed to wipe them all out. The timestamp is literally synonymous with future doom.
Okay, that aligns with the title, I admit.
But the real smoking gun is the comic book citation. Uncanny X-Men issue number 11.
I'm not familiar with that specific issue.
It is the first appearance of a character called the Stranger. Now, in the comic, Magneto tries to recruit him thinking he's some powerful mutant, but the Stranger isn't a mutant at all. He's a cosmic entity. He reveals that he's an alien who travels the universe collecting specimens for study. He shrinks Magneto and Toad and puts them in little plastic observation spheres.
Like bugs in a jar.
Precisely. This was one of Marvel's first real attempts at cosmic horror. Beings so powerful that our superheroes are just lab rats to them. If the glitch is pointing to issue number 11, it is telling us the nature of the Doomsday threat. We aren't fighting a supervillain, we're fighting a cosmic experimenter. The Stranger is a precursor to the Beyonders. The glitch at 1.11 is a classification error. It's saying, You think you're heroes? No, you're specimens.
That is undeniably chilling. The idea that our reality is being collected fits the glitch aesthetic perfectly, like a file being corrupted during a transfer. However, I'm not ready to abandon the Avengers guilt theory just yet, because the final two timestamps, 104 and 101, bring us right back to the scene of the crime.
You're referring to the Wakanda trailer and the thank you message?
Yes, the Wakanda footage glitches at 1.04. If we return to Endgame at 1.04, where are we? We're at the round table. The team is formulating the time heist. This is the inception. This is the exact moment they decide to meddle with forces they admit they don't understand. They are drawing the map that leads to their own destruction.
And the 1.01?
This is my favorite piece of evidence. The thank you real glitches at 1.01. In Endgame, this is the test run. Hawkeye goes back to his farm, hears his daughter, and brings back a baseball glove.
It's a baseball mitt, advocate. It's hardly the Infinity Gauntlet.
But that's the entire point of chaos theory. The butterfly effect doesn't require a nuclear explosion, it requires a displaced molecule. The Ancient One warned about the stones, but the TVA logic dictates that any deviation creates a branch. Clint Barton bringing that glove to the future is a violation of the law of conservation of mass and energy between timelines. That test run was the first crack in the dam. The glitch at 1.01 acts as a countdown. It pinpoints the exact second the Avengers broke reality. It wasn't Thanos, it was Clint Barton stealing a baseball mitt.
I admire the commitment to the forensic accounting of the Avengers crimes, I really do, but you're ignoring the convergence at 1.04. In Black Panther: Wakanda Forever at 104, Shuri and Namor have their first substantive conversation about the surface world.
Which connects to Doomsday how?
Through the comics, Fantastic Four issue 4 is the reintroduction of Namor into the Silver Age. It's the issue where the history of the Fantastic Four and the history of Atlantis collide. Why does this matter? Because Secret Wars, the likely destination of this Doomsday event, is fundamentally a story about Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. The glitch at 1.04 isn't just pointing to the heist planning, it's pointing to the intersection of these massive franchises. It's what I'd call a deliberate overlap.
Define deliberate overlap?
It's when the glitch reveals the seams of the storytelling itself. At 1.04, we have the Avengers planning the heist in Endgame. We have Namor explaining his hidden world in Wakanda Forever. And we have the comic origin of the Namor Fantastic Four rivalry with issue number 4. The glitch is overlaying all of these simultaneously. It suggests that Doomsday isn't just one timeline collapsing. It's the collapse of fiction and reality. The barriers between the franchises are dissolving.
That sounds incredibly abstract, almost metafictional.
Well, it has to be. We're dealing with the collapse of the multiverse. If Dr. Doom or some Doom variant is pulling the strings, he isn't just looking at the Avengers' mistakes. He's looking at the architecture of the storytelling itself. He's looking at the gap junctions between the movies.
I struggle with that because it absolves the characters of their agency. If this is just narrative instability, then the Avengers are just puppets dancing on strings. But if the timestamps point to Endgame, as the data overwhelmingly suggests they do, then the story is about consequences. It's about Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and Clint Barton making choices that seemed right at the time, but had catastrophic long-term effects. The Doomsday is of their own making. The gun was fired by the Avengers.
And I would argue that while the Avengers pulled the trigger, the gun was loaded by cosmic forces they couldn't possibly comprehend. The timestamps in Endgame are the trigger pulls. Yes, I agree with you there. But the destination of the bullet, that is defined by the X-Men lore, by Loki's godhood, and by that gap junction void. The glitches are showing us the cause and the effect simultaneously. They're looking back at the mechanical errors of Endgame and looking forward to the cosmic restructuring of Secret Wars.
We can certainly agree that the precision here is intentional. I mean, the fact that we can debate whether 1.04 is a reference to a time heist planning session or Namor's introduction shows the density of the material we are working with.
Absolutely. And the instruction to look closely is key. Nothing here is accidental. Whether it's a German trailer with a slight rendering error on some text,
or a specific countdown in a thank you montage. Every frame is being used to build this atmosphere of unease. Reality is fragile.
It suggests that the upcoming Doomsday event will require us to understand the history of these failures. If the audience doesn't understand why the timeline is breaking, specifically because of the Avengers' arrogance in Endgame, then the stakes won't land. The glitches are a history lesson.
And perhaps a warning that the history you think you know is about to be rewritten by a god of stories or a Dr. Doom who sits outside of time in his library of worlds.
We shall see. It seems the past is not done with the Avengers yet.
And the future is bleeding into the present.
That brings us to the end of this analysis. The timestamps are there, the evidence is laid out. Whether you believe they are a confession of guilt or a cosmic map, one thing is certain. The glitch is in the system.
Indeed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for joining the debate.